Hey, what's going on? It's Stokely from Sauce on Delay. I had a relatively productive weekend. I mean, I'm not posting every day, so weekend or not, whenever you listen to this. But I had a productive weekend, I guess. I mounted my mother's televisions. I cut a dry tree limb off of her tree. I went and celebrated a 70th birthday. Cut the grass, bagged up some garbage, raked some leaves, harvested some squash. Not too bad. Me and my son went to his basketball practice. I don't know. I didn't get his homework done though. His homework was just to practice some words, so he's not gonna be evaluated on it. So I had to skip that. We were too tired. But anyhow, I had a productive weekend in the sense that I got to actually socialize with some people for once, and during the dinner for there was a lady that turned 70 years old, and her birthday was being celebrated, and my mother says that she should be. My mother says that she herself should be hired out as a professional crier and I think that I'm just like her because I'll go to any event if it's a wedding, if it's a funeral, of course, well, I don't even need to know the person. I don't need to know the person. As long as the sad music is playing, I'm gonna burst out crying. So and this wasn't even a funeral or a wedding. It was the lady's birthday, but she was 70 years old. She walks with a walker, and it was it just felt like to me that she was very appreciative of everybody showing up for her, and appreciative of what her kids did for her, and just seeing everybody. And I mean, it wasn't happening for me necessarily, but it just reminded me of all my elderly family members that passed away, and my not being around and reaching out to my family members as much as I would like, and the tragedy and the finality of death, and the tragedy and the finality of getting old. Those things just it just all came at one time. I wasn't prepared because I was enjoying the music right before she came in. It wasn't necessarily even sad music. It was just slow R&B kind of, which as a child I always called it depressing. My father used to play jazz music. I said, Daddy, that's depressing. Later on, I got to appreciate it, when I started having my own romantic interests when I, as an adult. But now I don't even look at it that way. I look at it as tragedy. It just sounds very sad, and because there's loss associated with just about every facet of life, and I mean, that's a very pessimistic look. That's not a very holistic, healthy kind of look to it or perspective on it. So, I'm not suggesting that anybody have that perspective, because that's not how you should really look at it. I don't think that's how you should look at it. It's not a healthy way, in my opinion, to look at it. I don't see how being sad or down is healthy for anybody. It's not. So don't try, I prefer not to entertain those kind of emotions. But since I think because I don't entertain those kind of emotions 95% of the time, then 5% of the time I just burst out crying. But yeah, I think me and my mother, we might have to start a contracting company of professional criers. So whatever event you're gonna have and you need somebody to come cry, then you're gonna book us, and we'll come over there and we'll hose it down. We'll let it rain for you. Cause oh man, I was just tearing up. Oh man. Anyhow, but happy birthday to her. It was a happy day. It was a happy day. But with me, I'm pessimistic. I'm gotta work on it. Whenever there's happiness, there's an end to happiness that's gonna come eventually, and unfortunately, that's what I'm thinking about. And you know what too? They say that I don't know. I took Jewish studies in college. I took 3 Jewish studies classes. I needed one more to make it to be my secondary major, but I never took the 4th class. But something that's in the there's I don't even remember a lot, but a lot of you have commentary in the Torah, or is it the Talmud? Well, you have commentary in the books, in the Bible, in the Torah, in the Torah, right? And some of this commentary is to interpret what the words in the Bible are meaning. It's like a Supreme Court. It's kind of like a Supreme Court for, like the Supreme Court interprets the Constitution, and the guys like Maimonides, they interpret the Torah or the Talmud, one of those. But there's like a belief that you should cry when a baby is born, and you rejoice when somebody dies, because and this, now I'm gonna add my interpretation. And I think you cry when a baby's born because the baby is gonna have to go through struggles and be tested throughout life. And you rejoice when somebody dies because the work is done. They don't have any more pain. They don't have any more work to do. They're going back to the source. But anyhow, that's not even what I wanted to talk about. We're alive right now, so let's celebrate life. And let's live life to the fullest as much as we can. I mean, living life to the fullest doesn't mean drinking alcohol, wasting your money, engaging in any risky or harmful behavior, associating with people that you shouldn't associate with. Living to the fullest doesn't mean any of those things. Unfortunately, television, media, the drug companies, the alcohol companies, whatever, wants you to think that the movie, film companies, the musicians, they want you to think that living life to the fullest means gambling, risky relationships, alcohol, drugs. That's not living life to the fullest. No, I don't think it is. I think we got to go back to we gotta look at these guys who meditate all day like that. We gotta look at the monks. We gotta look at the Buddhas. We gotta look at the gurus. We're not gonna live their life. Like I was just listening to something the other day on meditation. The gurus and the yogis and the monks, that's their profession. We have our lives to live. We're not yogis. We're not gurus, and we're not monks. We live in the real world. So all we can do is take some of the teachings from their meditations, take some of the teachings from their research that they're doing in their professional life. They live a life of research. Monks were the ones that were copying books back in the days before we had the printing press and all of that. So they had archives of books, and they had a lot of knowledge, and they did a lot of research. I mean, the earliest genetic research was done by a monk. I don't remember what his name is, but yeah, with the fly experiment, right? So I think that we can and now we use that genetic information, the genetic research that he did, and we've done so many things with it. But we are not gonna live our whole life in the monastery. We live out here, so we can't achieve necessarily all the things that they achieve, but we can, through their research, through their understanding, through their meditations, they come back with some information that we can use, and we're gonna use that. But so we're not gonna be perfect, but I say we gotta look at these guys. These guys definitely tell you alcohol is probably not good for you. Simple food is good for you. Keeping your mind calm is good for you. The monks and the yogis and all these guys, they come back with good practices for the most part, in my opinion. I listen to a guy named Sadhguru, but I'm going way off tangent, so that's not what I wanted to talk about. Stick a pin in that, right? Forget that. You don't even need to stick a pin in that. I'm just freestyling. So what I really want to talk about, so I was at the dinner now, and the couple next to me, oh man, they had some delicious food. The couple next to me, they started stockpiling the food on their plate, and I was like, hold on, I should have done the same thing, because this food is delicious. I want to take some home. I should have thought about that, because it was like, it wasn't really buffet style, because the waiters were bringing it around. So, but there was a lot of food, so some of it went back to the kitchen, So, I was like, oh, so at the end of the dinner, I was like, oh man, you guys thought ahead. You saved your food. So the man said, no, what happened is, we have both gotten, I'm gonna call it bariatric surgery. They have the sleeve. They have their weight loss surgery is called the sleeve. So a sleeve is placed, from my understanding, around their stomach to prevent it from expanding. It keeps it to the size of just like a tube. It's not spherical anymore. It's not like a bag. It's more like a tube now. So, and I was greatly appreciative of him telling me that, because most times people hide that because they're ashamed that they went through the gastric bypass or bariatric surgery or got a sleeve or whatever the case may be. So he told me about his wives, and then the lady across from us said, oh, she also had the surgery 10 years ago. She's 65 years old. So I asked him, is it safe? Did you believe that it's safe? And they said, yeah, it's safe. And then the lady across said, well, yeah, they just went right through my navel and they installed it. I did it for aesthetics, but it worked out eliminating my diabetes. And then the guy said, well, you know what? Before I had my surgery, I lost 2 toes due to diabetes. But now that I installed the sleeve, I'm gonna be able to walk my daughter down the aisle. And I was like, I was about to start crying again, but I was so encompassed in the science and the medicinal portion of what he was talking about that I was ignoring the music, because the music is a big part of why I start crying all the time. So I wasn't paying attention to the music that time. So I was listening to him, but I wanted to cry a little bit when he said, I got the sleeve. I had diabetes. I lost 2 toes. I think he said he almost lost a finger also. And the sleeve is going to enable him to walk his daughter down the aisle. So I was like, wow, man. Wow. And he had diabetes for years, and now he doesn't have diabetes anymore. So it's really the whole sleeve and the gastric bypass and whatever they call the other one, the lap band, I think they call it something like that. It's really about portion control, really. It's really about self-control. And since, literally, since people can't control or limit themselves to a small amount of food, their body just keeps taking on more energy. Their stomach is expanding and accommodating more and more food, and more nutrients, and they're not exercising probably, so it shows like a direct connection, a direct correlation, a direct relationship between food and diabetes, food and obesity. He didn't lose a lot of weight. He lost 20 pounds, I think he said. I think he lost 20 pounds. And the guy was a big guy. He was probably about 220. He's probably about a 220. He's about as tall as I am. We're both about 6 feet tall. But he's like, he's a stocky guy. He's not like a little small frame guy like myself, So him at 220 is the weight where he's supposed to be probably. But the lady that was 65 years old, she got it 10 years ago when she was in her 50s, and she didn't, she said she went from something like the upper twos to like 180 or something like that. So not the upper twos, like the mid twos to about 180 or something like that. So it's strange that whole conversation went back to something about health. And I think that's why, sometimes I say that we live in the best times, because we have some of the best medical technology that you could ever think of. I mean, there's still bad things about the world, but there's good things too. So when we talk about the good old days didn't have such great medicine, did they? So the good old days were good in some ways, and then we didn't have certain things that were certain luxuries and conveniences of that time. And now we're in the new good days, I would say. So we gotta appreciate what we have here. But it was interesting, and I greatly appreciated them for sharing that with me, because most people are embarrassed to tell that their weight loss was due to the sleeve or the band or the surgery. They like to tell you that, oh yeah, I was working out. So many people have done that, and as a result, I can't even ask people when I see a drastic weight loss how they did it, because they might get offended and they just tell you a straight up lie. They'll just say, oh, I've just been working out and eating right, and that's not the case. That's not the case. They've actually gotten some kind of bariatric or bypass or laparoscopy or whatever it's called, or sleeve surgery, but they're just too hung up on what it looks like to say that, this is how they interpret it, saying I'm too lazy or I'm indisciplined. I'm not disciplined enough to stop eating all this food, and I got a surgery to do it. Because that's what the surgery actually does. So, we hold a lot of shame in our lives. We hold on to a lot of shame and fear. And as a result, other people can't learn. And, they're going to look at me a certain kind of way. They're going to think of this about me. Well, it's true. I mean, I really don't know what to tell you. It's true. Whatever they were thinking is actually accurate. It to be true. I mean, you lying to them, what is that really gonna achieve? That's gonna make you feel secure about yourself, I guess. But what you just really told them is not really helpful. I mean, maybe they could have learned. Now they're gonna go ahead and try to work out as much as possible and still eat a bunch of garbage and still have to have a coping mechanism, eat as a coping mechanism, eat due to their depression, eat due to anxiety and stress. And they're gonna eventually just give up because it's hard. It's not that it's hard. I mean, I think we already went through the coping mechanisms and discussion. We already went through the food is drugs discussion. What it does to your brain, how it makes you react like drugs, and how the ingredients in the foods are addictive. I don't think I discussed that portion, but the foods, some of the things that they put in the foods make them addictive, like MSG. I just found out MSG makes you want to eat more, that's wild, So that explains why when I used to eat Chinese food back in the 90s, I could eat a whole box, and I'm typically a person that can't eat even a whole Chipotle burrito. But back in the days, I was smaller, and I could eat a whole box of a Chinese food. The MSG was telling my brain, keep eating. You know what I mean? And then I'll be like, ah. So, it's very unfortunate that these manipulative, addictive things are being put into the food. It's like people lacing people's heroin with fentanyl and all these things. Like you expect to eat some food, but you didn't expect to become an addict. Anyhow, I'm freestyling, but the sleeve. Hey, I just got a testimony from some people. So it was a testimonial, and that was cool. 3 people sitting right immediately next to me got their sleeves installed and reversed their diabetes. Just about all of them reversed all of their diabetes. save one man's life and probably save them from spending thousands of dollars in insurance payments or even out of their pocket for diabetes medication. So for the type of diabetes that they have, there's a type of diabetes I think weight loss does not prevent. But that was interesting, and thanks for listening.